Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever or wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me in today's card chase to escape the tracksuit mafia, our single-entry Hawkeye, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, bud?
I've been jamming Marner highlights for the past 24 hours. I'm out of the dark room. I'm back, ready to talk some hockey. I've still come to the conclusion that Marner sucks, but we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's the Awesemo pennant around here. Like, if you make a bad call, you have to take the next day off and watch Marner highlights for 24 hours, like Clockwork Orange style, with your eyes peeled wide open. How'd you do last night? It was a mixed bag for me because I cashed one lineup, didn't cash another, but the cash that I did make wasn't enough to break even, so underwater. But it was one of those nights where, like, I think I was on the right lines. Like, I was on Minnesota, I was on Colorado, just had, wrong defensemen, wrong goalies, those types of things.
So I used Minnesota 1, which was good, and then I had Hintz, Robertson, Klingberg, and then with Klingberg out, I downgraded to Essa Lindell, which took me off Markstrom and put me on Ottinger, so that cost me about 20 points. But I still did a little bit better than 2x. So, I always say I always get more tilted when I win than when I lose, like what could have been. But I cashed. I'm happy. We live to see another day. I think it's tilting when you like do a little bit better than min cash and you had a swap that just killed you. I'd rather, finish dead last than have that happen.
It's funny you say that. I actually had that conversation on Twitter this morning with somebody that watches us quite a bit, Dave from Tampa. And he said that he just barely missed the cash line last night. And like, I'm with you. I'd rather finish like 3,000 out of 3,000 contestants than bubble on the cash line, or even just, like you said, a small cash, but you had a swap that maybe cost you a couple $1,000s or something like that. Like, those are the things that can drive you nuts. But the nice thing about NHL DFS is you don't have a long time to think about it. You got to gear up and get right back into the game the very next day. We didn't do well, but there were some winners in our chat last night. I saw Billy the Kid took down second in the $20, if I'm not mistaken. Our old friend, Mr. G, didn't bank the $15, but he had a lot of 1% lineups. And that's, sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying we both got run over by Markstrom late.
Yeah.
If I had Markstrom in that lineup that I had, I would have been in the top 10 in the 295. But YOLO.
Yeah. 30% Markstrom last night. That was a very big deal. But yeah, as long as you're consistently getting those 1% lineups, I think you should have faith in your process and that eventually it's going to break through. So decent night for him. I saw Chris Worstel didn't bank last night, but he finished top 5 in the $40. And I got a DM on Discord earlier from Damon. He finished top 3 in the quarter arcade a couple nights ago. That's not easy, man. That's one of those 5, 6, 7,000 contestant contests. So
that's the only one you can get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame in hockey.
Yeah, exactly. you could bake the peppermint patty and not get in for hockey here. But good job, Billy the Kid. Good job, Chris. Good job, Damon. Good job winning some money. Maybe you and I and everybody else can win a little bit of money here today. Before we get too much further, if you guys could click that thumbs up button for us. I see about 40 to 50 people in here, only 20 thumbs up. A little bit more would help us out. Click the subscribe button. Keep these shows coming on a regular basis, whether it's NFL or NBA. We have lots and lots of shows all day, almost pretty much every day here at Awesemo. Click that notification bell to get alerts whenever we do go on the air. And thank you very much to Yahoo Fantasy. They are our sponsor for today's show. They've been very good to us here. I know Jake has been doing well over on Yahoo Fantasy. Have you been playing any NHL DFS over on Yahoo?
NHL, no, I haven't got into it. I've still been playing NFL because I'm pretty bad at NFL. So when I get tilted, I like to go into the casino, and they don't have one. So love me some Yahoo.
Yeah. No, we do like Yahoo here. So thank you very much for their sponsorship. We do have a 5-game slate ahead of us here today. I find it an interesting slate because, there are a couple heavy favorites, but there are, what I would deem a couple of fairly close matchups, at least, by the Vegas odds. And I think that could give us a nice opportunity here to, not necessarily have to play, all the 20 and 30% ownership guys. So you and I I've been tending to play more 1 and 3 lineups these last few weeks. If you were to, I just want to talk about playing more lineups, because obviously 1 to 3, it's kind of the same approach, whether you're playing four game slates or 12 game slates. You have to cut it down and cut it down and cut it down until you get to where you want to be. But if you're playing 20 max or 150 max or something like that, I know when I was playing 20 max, the way I approached it was always spread out ownership. Like, I know a lot of people would do, tonight they'd say like 50% Vegas 1, 50% Edmonton 1, 50% Calgary 2, 50% Anaheim 2, and then mix and match defensemen and goalies with those stacks. And then, if those stacks hit, they absolutely nuke the slate. But if anything misses, then, they're done. I tend to spread out my ownership a little bit more, but I also like to take a lot more risks on a short slate like this, like third lines, fourth lines, third pair, stuff like that. So how do you approach your player pool? That's kind of my overall question here. How do you approach your player pool? Because you do have to pare it down and pare it down and pare it down. But can you kind of talk us through, like, how do you decide that, yes, I want to play a Seattle team with a 3.1 implied goal total, but ignore, a Rangers team with a higher implied goal total or something like that? Like, how do you go through that process?
Yeah. So if I was building 150, right, as smart as I think I am, the optimizer is generally smarter. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to, like, X anyone out just because on a short slate, say you X out, the hurdle line tonight, and they go off like it's 5 game slate, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe if in my first run, I'm getting 45% hurdle line, I'm going to manually limit them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to, stop playing like, oh, I'm getting 12% Rangers 3. They suck. You know what I mean? Like, they can get there tonight. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if like we're running the first crunch and we're getting like, 20% Jimmy Vesey with Michael McLeod, Cloud, and Nathan Bastian. Yeah. But like fourth lines, if you sprinkle in 150, like, there's like one or two lineups in 150 with like a couple fourth liners on a short slate. That's fine. Like, I know Jake talks about it. He plays 150 every night. He'd never, completely X's out anybody because, the optimizer is just going to, get you there sometimes. He had that happen with, Brad Richardson, like a third line on 150. He had that 4-goal game under 1%. Like, these strange outcomes happen. Like, if DFS was so concrete, we'd win every night. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes you just you have to realize you're not as smart as you think you are, and you let the tools take over. So basically, to get to my point is, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to X anything out, but if there's something in the optimizer that I think is wrong, I will manually limit it. But, third lines are for sure in play on a short slate. Obviously, the optimizer is not going to spit out fourth lines too much, but if it is, just limit it.
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm not going to say full stack of fourth line or even full stack of third line, but definitely taking parts off the third and fourth lines. I think that's important. And, to your point and to what Jake always said, is it's important not to X anything out, right? Because like you said, if that line goes, like you said, if the hurdle line goes off tonight and you're playing 150 and you don't have them, like, you might not cash, you might cash a handful of lineups and that's it. So I think that's a very good point. You just have to adjust your exposures. Like, if you like Anaheim 2 a lot more than Calgary 2 here tonight, maybe you have, 15% Anaheim 2 and 8% Calgary 2 or something like that, as opposed to just going 25% Anaheim 2 and putting all your eggs in that one basket. So I think that's a very good approach. 20 max and 150 max. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, if like you're not high on the hurdle line and they keep spitting it out, instead of like capping it, you could just lower the projection a little bit because you don't believe in the projection or whatever. So just lower it at a point or two. You'll end up getting out less. I'm not a fantasy cruncher expert. Those questions are more for you and Jake. But that's something I would do. If it's something I wouldn't like, I'd probably lower the projection a little bit instead of just Xing them out, because Xing people out on a short slate is a dangerous business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And the last thing I want to touch on before we dive into the slate is ownership. And I brought it up on the show with Jake yesterday. Now we had 10 games, so obviously we couldn't dive into it then. But I just want to run through the quick math about why I think ownership does matter, and we are going to talk about it, and we're when to use it and when not. But this is why I think it can be kind of overblown. Let's say you're in a contest with 5,000 people, and you have a line at 20%, and that line goes off. It's the best line of the night. That means 1,000 people out of that 5,000 have that line. So now you have 1,000 people with the best line. Let's say your next line is also 20% and it's the next best line. Okay, now you're down to 200 people. So from 5,000, you're down to 200 just with your two stacks at 20% ownership. And if you have a 10% goalie, you're down to 20 people. If if you have a 20% defenseman, you're down to 4 people, and you have a 25% defenseman, you're with one person. That you're the one person out of 5,000 as long as those players went off. That's why, I think ownership is a little bit overblown, and I would focus less on ownership and more on leverage. And I think that's where our top stacks tool can really, really help people. It's figuring out when to avoid, a 15% owned line that only has a 5% chance to go off, as opposed to playing a 15% owned line that has a 25% chance to go off. Those aren't the same situations. So I would say context really matters. Is there anything you want to add about ownership?
I mean, I know this sounds simple, but just play your best plays, Don't concern yourself with ownership. Okay, if you're worried about dupes and you're playing 1 to 3, I think that's a problem. In my 1 to 3, I don't build thinking I'm going to be duped in the 15. You know what I mean? I'm not concerning myself with being duped in the 15. I'm building my lineup to win single entry 3 max. If I happen to be duped, I happen to be duped. I'd rather finish 3rd in the 15 with 3 other people than make an ownership play and miss the cash because of it. I just want to play my best guys. And lineup construction can make you completely different too. If you're just going standard 4-3-1, yeah, you might get duped. But if you're power play stacking, it doesn't really matter what the ownership on the top line is. You get a guy in the second line who's going to be lower owned, and that the combo of those players are low owned. So individual players might be high owned, but the combo of the players you have may be extremely low owned. So I think ownership can be vastly misleading at times. I think, as simple as it sounds, just play your guys. If you just play your best guys, especially if you're 1 to 3. You cannot.
That's what I would say. If you build a lineup and you like it and it projects well, you're not projecting for 70 points or something like that. If it projects well, just go with it. I do like that a lot. We do have 5 games to get here today. Be sure to click that like and subscribe. Keep up with all our shows, all our giveaways, and a whole lot more. We do have free premium tools and data up on the site. We usually do almost every day, but today is no exception. We have NFL main slate ownership projections for this weekend. So if you're playing NFL this weekend, we have main slate ownership up. We have NBA ownership rankings for the slate tonight. And we also have NHL ownership projections. So you will hear us talk about ownership, and you will hear us talk about why it is or is important, or maybe a little bit overblown, but they are up on the site for tonight if you want to check them all out for yourself. All right, let's dive into these games. The first one, San Jose, 2.3 implied goal total. They're going into New York. The Rangers have a 3.2 implied goal total. Back-to-back for the Sharks. They played last night in New York against the Islanders. That went to overtime, so, kind of a tough game, but they are going to be starting James Reimer here tonight. I think one note here for San Jose is Timo Meier went knee on knee with someone from the Islanders last night. It looked to be hobbling a little bit, but he finished the game and he even assisted on the overtime winner. So I assume he plays tonight. It's just something to watch for when warmups come around, because obviously there's no morning skate today with them being on a back-to-back. I think there's genuinely stuff to like on both sides here. So what do you like, Josh?
Yeah, so I've talked about it with Capo Caca moving up to the top line of Kreider and Zibanejad. They've actually been a lot better at 5-on-5. And the Rangers don't really hard match at home. Yeah, this Zibanejad's line's going to get some Couture, but they're also going to get some Hurdle. And there's some vast defensive differences there. I would imagine the Strome line seems a bit more of Couture line than the Zibanejad line tonight. At least with what Gallant has been doing. Who knows if he sticks with it, but I would imagine, every 2 out of 3 shifts, Strome will see Rangers top 6 goes out against the top 6. So Strome might see 55-60% against Couture, and then Zibanejad will see the rest, but they definitely don't hard match. So I think, in a 3.2 total, the Rangers ownership is actually pretty in check for that top line. Yeah, Kakko isn't on the top power play unit, but he's definitely coming into his own here as a player. He's obviously their best right winger right now because they don't have anyone else. But he's if you put Lafreniere on that top line with Kreider and Zibanejad, their numbers just are terrible. But with Kakko there, they're coming up on a 50-minute sample, which is five-ish games. They actually have pretty good numbers of 5-5, 56% shot share, over 3 expected goals per 60. Sharks on a back-to-back ownership, 9-10%. Yeah, Zibanejad's always a little bit higher, but his price has come down to 6,400. I think, that top line is definitely in play tonight. If you want to go to that second line, that's fine. I'm not a big, Strome guy. I'm not a big fan of Dryden Hunt. He scored last game and got ejected, but, Panarin is obviously their best winger. He's expensive at 7,200, but the line that I really like as a filler is Rangers 3. I've talked about it. This is finally a slate where we can use it because there's a lot of expensive spots, that you can power play stack, and you need a couple two-mans, Lafreniere, Hedel are 6,200 for the two of them. They're getting no ownership. They're going to get the bottom 6 of the Sharks, which is terrible. They actually, look pretty good offensively. They're pretty high event both ways. So, but, they're generating a lot of chances, and they're both on the power play together. So even a Lafreniere, Hedel, Trouba 3-man, I think is perfectly acceptable tonight. So especially if you're trying to get in the Edmontons, the Vegas, etc. So I like Rangers 1. I like Rangers 3. I think I'll be a little bit sparing on Rangers 2, but it's fine because Panarin's their best player. On the Sharks side, if Timo's in for sure, I think in MME, I think I'll have some Sharks 1. But other than that, I don't think I'm going to get to anything in 1.3 with a 2.3 total, back-to-back on the road going against Igor.
Yeah, that's the tough part here. Even if we think it's a good matchup, the Rangers aren't a great team, you're still facing, we talked about it the last time you and I were on together, if not the best goalie in the league, certainly amongst the first top 2 or 3. So, it's a very tough matchup for San Jose. Kakko on the top line is very interesting for me. And I want to talk about 2 things Kakko does specifically that I think can help them. And, we talk about line chemistry and all that here quite a bit. Kakko's good defensively. Legitimately good, not great or anything. This guy's, he's not Mark Stone, but he's a good defensive good defensive winger. And that's not something that they have in abundance on this team. The second thing he can do, and I was looking through his micro stats from last year, his high danger passing, which is passes that can go, passes that go cross slot or passes from behind the net to the slot, are way, way, way above average. He's not generally a great playmaker. He's more of I don't want to say a grinder because I think that does him a disservice, but I think that's where he does his best work is down low along the boards, that type of stuff. I think that's where, using his physical prowess, I think that's where he does his best work. And that's the kind of player that line needs because Mika Zibanejad isn't a guy that drives goals by himself. You know what I mean? He's not Nathan McKinnon or something like that. He needs somebody to set him up. And Chris Kreider's good, but I don't know if Chris Kreider is the guy that can set him up either. I think Kakko is the guy that can do it. I really like the combination of that line. I mean, just Kakko and Zibanejad, a 2-man going back to last year, they control 58% of the scoring chances when they're on the ice together. That's pretty good. So I'm with you. I really like the Rangers top line here. I would just full stack them. I would leave Kakko on that line. If you want to take Kakko off and put Fox on to focus on the power play, I think that's fine. But I think you're doing yourself a disservice because Kakko, he's a good player. He's going to do well on that line. And, they're cheap enough anyway, where if you put in Kakko, bring down the average cost, then you can go find some more expensive stacks elsewhere. So yeah, I really do like the Rangers top line here. The Rangers second line, I think adding Dryden Hunt, he's kind of like a similar player to Kakko in that sense, right? Is good defensively, works hard along the boards. I think that's all that line needs, because you just need somebody to, kind of hold Strome and Panarin's hand, get them out of the defensive zone, get them transitioning to offense into the offensive zone. I think that's a good matchup, but our line matching has them going into the San Jose top line. And that's, if there's one match you don't want to get San Jose, it's that top line. So, that would be my tiebreaker here, is that I think the Rangers top line is in a much better matchup in the game. So I like Rangers 1 more than Rangers 2. I'm with you on Rangers 3. I think they make a pretty good filler line here tonight. 62 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 38 scoring chances per 60 minutes in their time together this year. I think they're going to roll over that third line for San Jose, which has 16 high danger chances against per 60 minutes. Rangers 3 is one of my favorite filler lines on the night. On the blue line, I know Mario, we talk about Mario Ferraro as a block bot, but I don't know if the Rangers will generate enough shot volume here to, is he going to get 5 or 6 blocks? Because at 4,800, he can't just get a block bonus and you'd be satisfied with that. I like Jacob Trouba here again. We liked him the last time out. I like him again here. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I like Trouba again. His price really hasn't moved. He's involved, plays the minutes. He checks all the boxes. Obviously, if you can get up to Fox, I wouldn't go out of my way to, force Fox in, because he's reliant on the score sheet. He's not one of those combo meal guys. So Fox, if you can get him. Otherwise, Trouba's fine if you need a punt. If you want to go super cheap 3-man, Lafreniere, Hedl, Lundqvist is fine. You want to get it spicy. But on the Shark side, not much really there for me.
What are we going to do about the goalies here? Because San Jose is not a team that really shoots a lot, right? I see them in the bottom 10 by shot attempts over the last 12 games. Back to back, like Igor's 8,300. That's not cheap. He definitely has shutout upside. He can absolutely shut out these guys here tonight. I think it might be a lot to ask. James Reimer on the other side, second cheapest goalie on the slate besides Karl Vejmelka. So what do you think here?
With Igor, what concerns me is like 1 goal on 21 shots and the win. It's fine. It won't hurt you, but it's not going to get you there if you need it. He does have shutout upside. He has shutout upside every time he takes the ice. I think he's fine in correlated stacks. I think like one-offing him is fine. I worry about shot volume tonight. Reimer, on the other hand, I think you can take some stabs. Just back to back, he's going to see some rubber. So I don't mind him for some volume upside, hoping that the Rangers actually, do some stuff 5-on-5.
Yeah, we just to, put a point on it, we have him 6th by projected saves here tonight. It's just that we also have him projected for the fewest goals against, which is why he does have shutout upside here tonight. It's just one of those problems. Like, if he lets in 2 goals on 28 shots, then he's a bust.
Yeah.
Whereas, if he shuts them out on 28 shots, then he's great. So It's just kind of that problem. I think I like Reimer here, but if you want to correlate with Shesterkin, absolutely no problem. All right. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our Discord, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. If you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can take advantage of the promo code we have for the show, which is actually our MMA show's strategy code. MMA Strategy Show, all caps, all one word. That's MMA Strategy Show for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can find the coupon in the link of the description below. If you're looking to play only MMA DFS, you can sign up for two as low as $2.95 a week. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. You did an MMA article for this weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, I was writing before the show. I haven't finished, but doesn't get published until 9 a.m. tomorrow. I have 3 bets incoming.
Nice. Yeah. So if you want to check out some MMA bets, Josh is going to have MMA bets up on the site tomorrow. Is that for subscribers or is that
That is a free article. Just click on the MMA tab on the home site and click on articles, and I will be under the DFS stuff.
There you go. All right. He's the jack of all trades here at Awesemo.com. New Jersey Devils, 2.4 implied goal total. They're going into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 3.2 implied goal total. I haven't seen any news about, any different lineup combinations or anything like that. I think everything should be going as expected. New Jersey, they played last night. New Jersey also lost last night. It's a back-to-back on the road going from Minnesota to Winnipeg. They head home after this one. I can kind of see why Winnipeg is a pretty big favorite here. What do you like out of this game, Josh?
Like, if you're playing 1 to 3, or even just one, we'll say if you're playing one, you can't play Vegas, the Jets, and the Oilers and the Rangers tonight. Someone's gotta get faded. And like, I think I'm leaning towards the Jets here, and it's a scary fade. And it's a getaway game for the Devils too. It's just like, it's scary, but like the Jets are just so bad 5-on-5. Like I don't play the Jets because they're 5-on-5 prowess, like, and their ownership, like Connor Scheifele Wheeler coming in at 18, 19, 20%. I think, all things equal, assuming Stone plays, I'd rather, get Vegas one for a little bit more ownership. I'd rather play McDavid for more ownership. Like, if you want to play the Jets, that's certainly fine. Like, the thing is, like, the Wild beat them up last night, specifically the Hartman line, but that line's numbers are absolutely insane. Like, those, like, Hartman and Kaprizov's numbers together are just bananas. The thing is, like, the Devils are actually like a decent defensive team. They have a good penalty kill. There's reasons you want to fade the Jets tonight. It's just scary because they're back-to-back on the road. They're going home after this, yada, yada, yada. Scheifele Wheeler just not good 5-on-5. Dubois Ehlers is a pretty good line, but these combinations, the Heischer line's good defensively. They're giving up less than 2 expected goals against per 60. The Mercer line this season under 2 expected goals per 60. Like, I just think that Vegas is in a better spot. The Rangers are in a better spot in a vacuum. Like, yes, if you want to play the Jets because the Devils traveled, this is a getaway game, do it. This is a good spot. There's just factors that I'm talking myself out of it. They're a great play tonight. They fully correlate on the power play. It's not going to be Blackwood. It's going to be Bernier most likely. So there's reasons to play the Jets. I'm just looking for reasons to fade them in 1 to 3. And I'm just talking it out in front of all you guys right now. But listen, I think if I was going to play a Jets line, it would be Kopp, Dubois, Ehlers. Dubois is a better center at this point than Mark Scheifele. I don't care what the numbers say. Like, Scheifele is just for DFS. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I saw Cliffy like turning red. Smoke was coming out of his ears. for DFS, I should clarify that. Like, he's been shooting the puck a lot. Ehlers shoots the puck a lot. Kopp is a underrated DFS player and a player in general. I think, listen, I don't know. I'm talking myself out of Winnipeg here, but I think they're a good play. On the Devils side, there's almost no ownership. I think in MME, getting some of their top 6 makes some sense because both lines are fully correlated. And we talk ad nauseum about how bad the Jets PK is. So I'll let you talk about the Jets because I just confused myself and I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah. The first thing I want to touch on is actually the Jets PK because we have talked a lot about how bad it was, but it's actually been improving of late. Like, over the last month or so, it's been about average, which is still not good. Like, obviously an average penalty kill is not a good penalty kill. But it's definitely not a bottom 3 penalty kill. Like, they're not, like, for a while there, they were neck and neck with Arizona. So, like, I guess any improvement would have had to come eventually. But yeah, that's one thing we used to target Winnipeg for a lot was the penalty kill. It is getting better and they don't take a lot of penalties. Like, that's kind of the thing that's scaring me away from New Jersey here. And speaking of New Jersey, it's not just the back-to-back on the road. This is 4 and 6 and 5 and 8 nights for the Devils on top of the back-to-back, on top of this being a getaway game. So, like, I think it's pretty safe to say I'm out on New Jersey here. Like, I really do like their second line. It's just, let's face, I'm just going to say it. This team has looked like dog water since Jack Hughes came back. Like, awful. I watched both games because I wanted to see how good Jack Hughes would be. The top six in his 2 games since he came back are all under 40% shot share. And they played San Jose at home in the first game. It's not like and Minnesota on the road in the second one. It's not like they were back to back with, Toronto or something like that, or Colorado. Like, they're playing decent teams, but, not world beaters, and they got their brains beat in. So, like, I'd be willing to accept that a team that was rolling earlier with consistent lines almost every game kind of got thrown out of whack by a center returning and playing on the wing. And the fact that this is 5 and 8 nights for them back to back on the road, like I said, yeah, I'm out on New Jersey in my 1-3s. Obviously, like we said earlier, don't exclude anybody if you're playing, 150 or something like that. But I don't see any reason to get excited about the Devils here tonight. For me, it's all about Winnipeg 1 or 2, whichever one you want to go with. The thing with Winnipeg 2, I do want to use them, but New Jersey just takes so many penalties. Like, they're the second most penalized team in hockey, right? So I think I want as much of that top power play unit as possible. What I think I would do is go like Connor Scheifele Ehlers and just boot Wheeler into the Atlantic Ocean, because that guy hasn't done anything all year long, and there's no reason for him to be $5,300. I would consider him at $3,300. I think $5,300, he's just completely riding the coattails of his line mates, and I'd rather play an actually good player in Nikolai Ehlers. So I think I like the Winnipeg Jets top line just because I want to take advantage of that power play matchup. But if I want to take advantage of even strength matchups, it is that Jets second line, because I think they're going to take advantage of that New Jersey second line. Their defensive numbers have been good on the year, but starting to slide of late. I think that's to be expected with Mercer. He's an 18-year-old rookie, first season, kind of starting to hit the wall a little bit maybe. So personally, I like Winnipeg 1 most out of this game. If you want to play Winnipeg 2, absolutely no problem. On the blue line here, Neil Pionk, obviously, if you're correlating. Nate Schmidt is sitting at 5,400 on DraftKings, and he's playing under 20 minutes a night. Like, that seems like one of the worst values on the entire slate today, which, you know what that means, right? Nate Schmidt, absolute double dong here tonight. That's guaranteed now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Ryan Graves down to $4,000 is kind of tickling my fancy. Is there anybody else that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I like Graves. Brandon Dillon, if you need a min-price punt, has been pretty active with his peripherals for 2,500. I don't mind that.
All right. Connor Hellebuck, Jonathan. I think Jonathan Bernier is kind of interesting here, because we just talked about how this is an awful spot for New Jersey. I think the only way that they win this game is if Bernier steals it. So, I don't mind playing him here tonight.
Yeah, I think his ownership right now, 0.4%, I think it's going to be higher because people got burned by Winnipeg against Arizona. Vermelka had like a 927 save shutout. So I think people are going to hope that happens again. If anyone can do it, it's going to be Bernier. Like, Bernier is either going to have an excellent game or get chased in like 4 seconds. So there's not much median value in Bernier.
No. If I was just playing single entry, I might not play Bernier, but 20 max, 150 max, absolutely. I would definitely be getting some Jonathan Bernier in. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's $100,000 Thursday night football baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Not a bad little deal here. Free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you want to try out Yahoo. And, we talked about it earlier. It's not a bad spot to go and get your feet wet. Let's move to this next game. Vegas, 3.5 implied goal total. Going into Arizona, the Yotes have a 2.4 implied goal total. Laurent Brossoit expected to start for Vegas. Mark Stone, game time decision here tonight. That's not good because that's a late game. It's the third game on the slate. And we're only going to have 2 games. I suppose, if you put Stevenson, Stone, Pacioretty, and you don't like it, Stone scratch, maybe you can switch over to Calgary 1 or something like that. Different prices. You'd have to figure that out. But that changes. That changes things in this game. So what do you think, Josh?
Well, first of all, I see the Coyotes top line ownership around 20%. And I don't know how to react to that. The one thing I will say, if Stone's out and they move Evgeny Dadonov up, that is a massive defensive drop-off here. Now, I still don't think I'd play 20% Coyotes if you paid me to do it. Keller, Kessel, the only offensive players with a pulse on that team, but 20% on a 5-game slate, I'd rather take my chances with Rangers 3 at 1% than I would Coyotes top line, especially if Stone's in. Like we were talking about before the show, that Kessel line's going to see that Stevenson line. So if Stone's in, I have no interest in the Coyotes tonight. If Stone's out, and we won't know until later, you're just not going and building Coyotes lineups hoping Mark Stone's out tonight. If you
TGIF
are on DraftKings,
TGIF got to sneak those Coyotes in.
Woo! Yotes, we're building Yotes. I don't know anyone building Yotes lineups hoping Stone's out. So I'm just gonna say it. I'm out on the Coyotes. That ownership is just bananas. Stone's in. We'll have Vegas 1 tonight. They're still too cheap. Yeah, the ownership is high, but it's not much higher than Winnipeg's. And what can you say? I'm a Vegas 1 guy, especially with Stevenson on the top power play now. It actually drives up their ownership a little bit too, I think, which is a bit unfortunate. If Stevenson wasn't on the power play, their ownership would be down a little bit, but I'm fine with Vegas 1 tonight. You want to go to that Vegas second line, man, I don't know. They're always overowned, but it is the Yotes. They fully correlate on the second power play. They're super cheap. They need William Karlsson back in a big way. Roy was fine for a little bit, but their numbers are starting to. Yeah.
No. I was just gonna say negative leverage. That's one of the things that we talked about earlier.
It's Vegas too. If you think you're being sneaky with them, you're not. They're always negative leverage. So listen, I like the Vegas top line. I think even one-offing like a Dadonov tonight makes some sense. Coyotes penalty kill, awful. So yeah, Dadonov is a pretty sneaky one-off, especially if Stone plays, because if he is a game time decision, does play, hurts himself, Dadonov is going to move up. We kind of saw that with Reinhart last night. Reinhart power play 1, didn't start with Florida 1, ended up there and had a 900-point game. So I wouldn't count on Dadonov moving up, but he is on the top power play unit, 3,800, coming in at 2%. I do like him as a one-off.
Yeah, I really, really like the Vegas top line here tonight. I don't want to say I don't see reason not to build for a late swap, because I think it's really not a bad slate to build for a late swap here, right? Because, if you build Vegas 2 and then something happens, Stone's out, maybe they move up Riley Smith or something crazy like that. You can still swap to some, cheap Seattle line or cheap Anaheim line or something like that. If you go Vegas 1 and Stone's out, you don't want to play them, you can probably switch over to some sort of Calgary power play stack, including Rasmus Anderson, you know what I mean? So there are options here. It's just tough because it's only been a few games since Pacioretty returned, but the numbers have been good, not super elite since they returned, right? So it's not like Pacioretty came back and looked real good. I'll say flat out, Mark Stone hasn't looked like the Mark Stone of the last few years so far this season. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe he's playing through some sort of nagging injury. He doesn't want to miss time with all the injuries that they've had. They're not in a playoff spot as of today. So I could see him really trying to gut out an injury here. And maybe that's why the line's numbers haven't been super elite since Pacioretty returned. But I think, if you're scared of Stone being out, there are reasons not to play Vegas 1 here tonight. I think you're fine just going down to Vegas 2. I know we talk about them being overowned, and they are, but I think there are enough ways to get different. Like we talked about it earlier, even if this line comes in at 15% against the Coyotes on a 5-game slate, I don't really care that much. You know what I mean? So if you want to play it safe with Vegas 2, I think that's perfectly fine. Vegas 1 doesn't have great leverage as it is. And then, Mark Stone kind of questionable. if you just want two-man Pacioretty Stevenson, I think that's honestly fine. I don't think you have to full stack the entire line. It's just a headache. I don't want to particularly.
Something I think I'm going to do is if I use Vegas 1, I'm going to put Stone in the utility. And if he's out, I could swap to someone like Shea Theodore to get 3-man power play, something like that, go 3D.
Yeah. That's actually not a bad way to go through it too. Just make sure you have Stone in your utility and not in the winger spot that we see in a lot of lineups. I think you can even dump down to Vegas 3. You mentioned them as well. Kolasar, and that's assuming Stone plays and Dadonov's on the third line. Dadonov and Kolasar, 67 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 56% shot share, 31 scoring chances per 60 minutes. They're not bad as well. So I think you can play all three lines. I like Vegas 2 the most. On the blue line, you mentioned Shea Theodore a second ago. He's playing under 21 minutes a night over the last 4 games. That's not really appealing to me. I think I'd rather just play Pietrangelo. I'd rather play pay an extra $600 for Pietrangelo or just go all the way down to Nick Hague.
Yeah, I agree there. I was just pointing him out just because he's relatively the same price as Stone. If you have
they do have the power play correlation, so he can still have a good night. It's just that he's not. I wouldn't one off him, I don't think.
Yeah, if I was one offing someone, it'd definitely be Pietrangelo. Find the 600 there. Hague is fine. That's probably about it. Like White Cloud over 4K is if you want to, try to get a block bonus with McNabb, I think there's better, cheaper options.
Yeah. Speaking of block bonuses, do I hear a Dyson Mayo? 2,700.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna, put my feet in Mayo after the show and try to get that going.
That is not the mental image I needed on my Friday afternoon. I even see Tyler shaking his head back and forth very violently right now. Let's just completely forget about that. I see a super chat from Chris Warstell, $25 super chat. Thank you very much, Chris. That's generous. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. He says, thanks, guys. Top 10 in a number of contests last night. Minnesota won, St. Louis 2 plus Weegar and Saros. Saros. I was on Saros too. Didn't have a bad night, but not the night we were hoping for, obviously. But good night, Chris, and thank you very much for the super chat. We have 2 games left, but before we get to those games, I want to talk about the Awesemo Hall of Fame. I had somebody talk to me about the Awesemo Hall of Fame earlier, and this is how you can do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and you tweet the wins to the Awesemo Hoff account. That's Awesemo HOF on Twitter, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you do so. You'll see, I think it was a big basketball night recently for the basketball boys because I see Bud Zapper. I see Bud Zapper in second place in the 20 max. I see E Dozer took second place in the mini max. I see Eric Dickin took down, is that a single entry for 4K NBA again. I see Blocksme had a good multi-entry night over on FanDuel as well. And then we're back to our Bud Zapper again, put in $81, cashed out over 5K, listening to Ship My Money. So as long as you listen to Adam Schur, he should be able to steer you in the right direction. If you want to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame, just make sure you have the Awesemo avatar as your DK or FD profile pick. Finish in the top 5 with at least 5,000 contestants and send those wins into the Awesemo Hoff account. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. That's plenty of time to get through these final 2 games. Before we do that, if you guys could give us a little thumbs up. I see 100 people in here with about 60 thumbs up. If you could click that little thumb, that would help us a lot. Click the subscribe. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel because there are new shows coming almost every hour during the day. Click that notification bell so that you get alerts when we do go live. All right. Calgary, 2.9 implied goal total. Going into Anaheim, the Ducks have a 2.7 implied goal total. Dan Vladash. It's not Vladar, eh? It's Vladash. I learned that. Yeah, it's Czech Republic, I believe, and it's there's umlauts over the R, so it's Vladash. Anyways, so just something new here for everybody to learn here on this Friday. Markstrom played last night. Vladash in tonight for Calgary. On Anaheim, I don't think they've ever confirmed their goalie before warm-up skates since 2017. So I don't know, probably Gibson. Ryan Getzlaf is out. He's week to week. Assume Sam Steele is going to stay on that top line for Anaheim. I know what I like out of this game, Josh. What do you like?
Yeah, I like the Ducks second line. Here's the issue I have with it. We were talking about line matching on this game before the show. The Ducks don't really hard match with Getzlaf out. The problem is, like, the Flames have been very good defensively, specifically that Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane line. Like, their numbers defensively are absolutely insane. Under 1 expected goals against per 60. And that's not in the small sample. They're up over 70 minutes. Like, that's not like a 3-game sample. That's like an 8-game, 9-game sample. They have 67% shot share too. But on the flip side, like, the Ducks second line has insane numbers of their own. They have 67% shot share, 3.3 expected goals, 4 per 60, generating 13 high danger chances. So if they're, not going to hard match that back line, I do really like that second line tonight. Their ownership, on a 5-gamer, 10% is completely fine. Milano Cookies has looked very good on that line. Raquel coming back and moving Delorier down was a huge boost as well. It is a back-to-back on the road. So, Markstrom stood on his head yesterday. Like, let's be real here. He gave up, the Flames gave up over 40 shots to the Kings, and, Markstrom won that game. Our boy Vladash is not as good as Jacob Markstrom. I think, if the Ducks generate 40 shots like the Kings last night, they're scoring more than 2 goals. I do like that Anaheim second line. Not much else, really. You want to play Troy, McDavid, Terry. I think that's fine. I think his point streak finally came to an end at like 3.5 seasons. But, like, not much. There's not much I like outside the Ducks second line. On the Flame side, like, I also like the Flame second line, especially if they're going to get a little bit of that Lundstrom, Grant, Silfverberg line. Like, their numbers are bad. Steele is not a top line defensive center in the NHL. He's a good defensive winger, but defensive center, shutdown center, I don't see it. So I think, they are back-to-back on the road, but they still almost have a 3 total. Their ownership's in check. That top line is coming in at 5-6%. I think you can use them as well. I like, the second line better for filler. They're coming in lower owned. Get Backlund, Mangiapane on the second power play unit. You want to use that top line MME, I'm perfectly fine with it. So for me, Ducks 2, a little bit of Calgary 1, and some filler with Calgary 2.
Yeah, Calgary 1 really strikes my fancy here. Calgary has the 5th highest implied goal total on the slate, and they're coming in, and the Calgary 1 line is coming in as the 12th highest owned line. They're coming in as the best leverage line on the entire slate, and you went over the matchups and why it's a good matchup for Calgary 1. And you and I have talked about how sometimes lines, their numbers get worse as the season goes on. Like, we talked about Dvorak and Anderson in Montreal and how that's happened. In Calgary, the last 3 weeks for that top line, 69% shot share, 75% scoring chance share. They are absolutely beating the brains out of the opposition. Calgary top line is one of my favorite top lines. It might be, with Mark Stone out now, it's probably my favorite top line on the entire slate. Like, if Mark Stone's out, I should say. He's not definite. If Mark Stone's out, Calgary top line is my favorite top line on the entire slate. The only thing that worries me from Anaheim is facing John Gibson. It's the same thing. It's that, it's the Rangers conundrum. I'm not scared of playing the Rangers. I'm scared of playing Shesterkin. I'm not scared of playing the Ducks. I'm scared of playing John Gibson. But Calgary, like I just talked about Calgary's numbers, they're absolutely elite, perfectly correlated on the power play, best leverage spot on the entire slate. Calgary 1 for me. I don't mind Calgary 2 either. Also a good leverage spot for them. I just think it's a little bit of a tougher matchup. I think that's a spot where I'd more one-off or two-man rather than full stack the entire line. You know what I mean? Like 2-man, Backlund and Coleman or something like that, or Backlund and Mangiapane rather than stack all 3. For a 3-man stack, I love the Calgary top line. On Anaheim, I'm with you. I'm not as big a fan of the top line with Sam Steele there. The second line is going to get a lot of that Calgary second line, and I don't like that matchup. So I think I'm out on Anaheim. almost entirely here today. Maybe on the blue line. What do you have on the blue line for this game, Josh?
Not much. You see Hannafin's up to 4,600, Shillington's 4,700, Rasmus Anderson 5,200. Like, there's just not much that I really like on the Calgary side. On the Ducks side, I don't mind punting Hampus Lindholm at 3,300. If you're using the Ducks second line, Drysdale makes some sense. Other than that, like, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of many blue liners here in this game.
Yeah, I don't really either. What about goalies though? Vladash coming in at 7,700, Gibson 7,600. They're priced about the same.
I'd rather take a chance on Gibson at home. He's probably going to be chalky. You want to use some?
I mean, look at Markstrom last night. Markstrom was 30%, and you probably needed him to win. So I think
goalie ownership don't matter to me.
Yeah, if there's one spot I don't care about ownership, it's in goalie. So
goalie ownership doesn't matter. Goalie points matter.
Yeah, they matter a lot. Thanks again to Yahoo for sponsoring our show. We only have a few minutes left before we get out of here, but they've been really good to us. So thank you, Yahoo. We do have a lot of shows coming up. We have the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show with Eitan, Savoca, and Tara coming up. And then they're followed by the Yahoo NFL Sunday Pick Show with Eric and Terry. They're followed by the College Football Show with Vanek and Gashevsky, and then the NBA Double Dose with Deeper Dive at 4:45 Eastern with Lofty and Adam, and that leads right into the live before lock. So NFL, college, NBA, we got you covered on Awesemo for the rest of the day here. Just keep it locked on that YouTube station. All right, last game of the night, Edmonton, 3.3 implied goal total. They're going into Seattle. Seattle has a 2.8 implied goal total. Edmonton changed up their lines last game and put Kyler Yamamoto on the top line with Hyman and McDavid. I just looked for morning skate, and that looks like that's what they're going with again. RNH Draisaitl, Jesse Puljujärvi on the second line. It's a tough matchup. Seattle is a good team. Their goaltending has let them down quite a bit, though. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, and we don't even have Seattle lines. It's hard to conjecture. Not that, we have to worry about McDavid. He's matchup proof. Eventually, Seattle's goaltending is going to start stabilizing. Like, Grubauer's a good goalie. He's not. Maybe he's just uncomfortable in Seattle. Rains all the time in Seattle. Maybe he doesn't like coffee. Maybe everyone hates him for not liking coffee. We don't know. His goaltending is going to even out at some point. With Puljujärvi on that second line is interesting. I just, I don't know. I think for me, I'm going to do what I always do with the Oilers. Start with McDavid, power play stack. Yamamoto does nothing for me on that top line. He is min price, so that does help if you're trying to jam in some stuff. But, I think for me, I'll stick to the McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl's, which is very expensive. McDavid, Hyman, Nugent Hopkins, and go from there. On the Seattle side, I wish we had lines, because if it's Donato, Gord, Donskoy, I like them as a filler. We talk about it all the time. McDavid, very, very good offensively, but they are trading chances. It is very high event. The second line, not very good defensively. Maybe it gets a little bit better with Puljujärvi up there, but it's still not going to be, something to overly concern yourself with. So it's kind of tough, because I kind of want to get behind Seattle here. I do like Yanni Gord tonight as a one-off. You just hope he has some line mates. Gord, Donato, two-man is nice. It's hard to, say until we get definitive lines.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that Kalle Järnkrok is back tonight, right? And he could just take Ryan Donato's spot on that second line. But I will say they are both 2,500. So, if you want to do a Gord, Donato two-man, and Donato's moved down to the fourth line, you can just swap in Järnkrok 2,500, and that's something Mr. Saul Goodman, I know, would definitely appreciate. Was playing late swapping to Kalle Järnkrok that's
his favorite player.
Yeah, top of this list of things to do. Yeah. I like the Edmonton second line with Puljujärvi there a lot. I really do. He's a guy that can help control the play, and I think that's important for that line. Is sometimes they can get hemmed in their own zone. He's a guy that can help them transition out of the zone. So I kind of like that Edmonton second line here. It's just, fading McDavid, a little bit scary. I don't think I would Edmonton power play stack here. Seattle just doesn't take enough penalties for me, man. They're like at 2.2 or 2.3 times shorthanded per game. Like 2 power plays, yeah, McDavid can score 2 goals, sure, but I'd rather have 4 power plays. Just not enough. So honestly, I think for me, I would even strength stack the Edmonton lines. I'm not playing Edmonton here tonight. I'm off Edmonton in my 1-3. So I like the second line more than the top line. I'm not power play stacking Edmonton. I'm not very high on them.
Oh man.
I know.
Late hammer McDavid fade is just
I know.
scenes.
I'll absolutely be in bed by midnight tonight. I know that much. We do have to get going. We'll mention defenseman. Obviously, Chris Russell's probably going to play like 26 minutes again. So he's fine. Evan Bouchard at 5,000, I think, is fine as well. Jamie Oleksiak, 3,100, sticking out to me. Anybody else?
Yeah, I like the big rig. Adam Larson, not too bad either. That's about it, though.
Yep. All right. That'll do it for us here today. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick for tonight is DJ Zbad, Mika Zibanejad, and my goalies are John Gibson and Jonathan Bernier. Who you got?
I was gonna say Capo Caco, so I'm gonna do a little remix here, and I'm gonna say Max Pacioretty, and I like Gibson. I like I wish Brossoit was a bit cheaper. 8,500 is a tough little swallow, but I also like Bernier and even a little bit of Reimer.
Yeah, I don't mind Reimer as well. All right, that's it for us. We got to get out of here, but we will be back tomorrow morning in about 16 hours or so, maybe a little bit longer. I haven't done that math that well. For producer Tyler, for Josh, our single entry assassin, I'm Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.